You are now listening to Killing the Void with Andrew Parks, a podcast series. Today's episode is Killing the Void podcast episode number 5. I'm here with my guest, Johny Webb. I've known him for a few years. And I'm here also with his friend, Robbert Broeke. Or, let me restart that. Robbert Broeke. Or I'll let you say it.
Perfect.
Okay.
No, you must say perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and Robbert is a medium, and he also has a higher. You have a connection to the higher consciousness, right? So we would call like Jesus or the Source or God.
Yes,
And
exactly.
And also you are visited by entities, which regular people would call ETs or aliens. And I really appreciate Johny for setting up this interview. Johny has a background in computer tech, correct? Like, do you build computers or do you work on programs, Johny?
Well, I wasn't a Microsoft certified sort of engineer for a long time, but then I didn't keep it up because it meant every year sort of updating your credentials, and I didn't need them. So I sort of left the Microsoft certified engineer department and just went in self-employed. So yeah, I get a lot of small-time companies, not big corporate businesses, but small home users was a lot of my companies, and most of it was remote desktop. So tools like today's TeamViewer that is sort of available to most people. You can just log into different people's computers from anywhere in the world and just do your work. And so rather than putting a suit on and getting in my car, it was quite easy to just log on, find out what the problem symptoms were for them, and then just resolve them. So, yeah, self-employed in that regard. But with it, I was still interested in phenomena, into ghosts, aliens, UFOs, these sort of topics that for me has been part of my life for since I was a little boy. I'd seen things. I'd been sort of participant to seeing people do the Ouija board and then, problems that arise from that, breaking a glass and then negative energies coming out into this dimension. So I was aware that was some form of a portal, and it was quite negative experiences. I don't know anyone who's really had a positive experience for it. But that sort of, brought what I would say different dimensional beings into our environment as a kid. I realised my mum and dad were sort of breaking up in that regard. So there was, family problems in a marital sense. And that was a lot of arguments. There was a lot of negative energy in the air. And I believe that these beings or entities coming through were feeding off of that. So I sort of started to learn that there's different lower dimensional energies and areas that quite close by us, but still feed off of us, So I sort of learned a bit about that. But yeah, for me, so as I grew up, I'd never seen an alien or a UFO, except I'd seen odd things in the sky like ball lightning. But today they would be described as UFOs, what I was seeing. But again, it wasn't something that was directly personal to me. I wasn't an abductee, an experiencer at that point, in that degree. So I just had an interest in it. But then about 8 years ago, I was driving back from a place called Tunbridge Wells in Kent, back to London, and I had my 2 daughters and a friend of mine whose car it was. In fact, his mum's car, but she'd graced us to let us drive her car that day. It was a Sunday, and when I was coming back, for some reason, the motorway, the M25 or the Highway to Hell, I think it's called on Chris Rear's record, but this motorway was forcing me to come off in a sense. I'd missed a turning, and so I tried to take the next turning, but when I went across the turning, I then had to somehow go across these roadworks and a barrier that if I just took the barrier and didn't go 5 miles down the road, I wouldn't have to go to the roundabout and come back up that same road. So I literally just crossed over that barrier as well. So I'm on a sort of a side road of a freeway motorway, but it's in that side road, there's road works. And instead of going all the way down the road and coming back, I just crossed over the freeway bit, the central reservation, and turned right. So now I'm on a country road that's running parallel to this main freeway called the M25. And I'm coming up a road that's going to lead me up to a place called Badger's Mount. But before I get to Badger's Mount, on the left-hand side is a big hill, and inside that hill is a very interesting place. But before I mention that, basically, as I was driving down this road, I noticed what I would say is a flotilla of orbs in the sky. They did have that appearance of what looks like Thai lanterns being released in a mass scale. But clearly these wasn't Thai lanterns, and what I was seeing was independent, intelligent orbs that were in a formation that were following us, but not directly following us. They were sort of going in the same direction. They were about 300 feet in height. They were probably 500 feet away, but it was clear that you could see them in their size. Now, when I sort of told my friend sitting next to me, look out there, do you see those? And he went, nah, I'm not having that. That's a constellation. I said, don't be daft. You can see the stars behind. There's the constellations. I said, look, these things are right there. No, I'm not having it, he said. And with that, instead of having a big argument with him, I just switched off. I just knew that you're up against the brick wall. Forget it. You know what you see. And then I forgot about it. It's so strange for that split minute. I just forgot about it. And I carried on driving, not having wanted to have an argument, not thinking about it. And then in front of me, like, coming up about a quarter of a mile away ahead of me on the left-hand side of the road was this field that had a pillar of orbs, like an Ibani is the only word I can use. Just sort of a pillar of separate independent orbs all on top of each other, but in groups of 4. And so the next 4 that goes on top, then it lifts and rises up a bit. And the base of it was about, when I got close up to that field level with my left-hand side, it was about 30 to 50 feet from the ground. But what I could clearly see was that independently, all these orbs that I'd seen previously in the flotilla were now all approaching in the back end of this field that was on my left, and lots more orbs that were already in the field, and they were floating independently. I would say that they looked about 5 feet in diameter round. They were translucent. They had an orangey glow to them, but there was a center piece that was deep red, but it would also change to red, white, gold, yellow, red, white, gold, sort of sprinkle of colors, but all within that same sort of color. And to the left of each of the orb, on the bottom left side, I noticed there's like a tinge of burgundy color, which instead of it being like a shadow, it was like a burgundy, like a bit like when the old TV of VHS, when it wasn't quite tuned in properly, you needed to squelch it a bit. You could see like bleed over, and it looked like that, but just on each one of these orbs, and no matter what height or position or direction or whatever, the view of it in front of me, they all had those things, and that's what stood out to me about them, as well as being translucent, as well as being this sort of central emitting, emanating vibe, like a sort of pulsing, but very fast. It was alive. They were all alive to me. They were organic. They wasn't sort of like a bubble, like water. They had life. They had movement. And what would happen is that where this pillar going up, at that point when I noticed it, it was at 400 feet at least. And I'm sort of, private pilot. I got a rough idea of altitudes and stuff. It was about 400 feet up in the air. 4 orbs on each level, and then another 4 on top, or in this case from the bottom upwards, and it was pushing it up, so it never became lower than that height. It would just be about 30 to 40 feet in the air, and these orbs would go from the farthest end of the field, from the lowest point or from the highest point of the field, and just join it. There was no synchronicity of, like an order that we'd have in a structure. It was just everyone knew independently who was going next, and they joined this pillar of orbs, and it went straight up in the air. Now, I'm getting screamed at now by Sam, who's a friend of mine, who's in the passenger seat of his mum's car. And he's like, John, don't stop the car. You've got your children in the back car. Don't stop the car. And I look over my shoulder very briefly and I say, girls, how do you feel? Do you feel all right? He says, it's my mum's car. Something could hit us. Don't stop. There's cars behind us. They might hit you. Every excuse in the book where he was being thrown at me from Sam, who was really genuinely panicking. He was frightened, yeah. I looked at my girls, and my oldest one, Danny. I said, Danny, how do you feel, love? What do you see? And she said, I do feel a little bit scared, Daddy. But that was normal because Sam was panicking in that sense. So I said, what do you see, Danny? What do you see yourself out the window? She said, well, Daddy, they look like jelly beans. I said, jelly beans, but they look like orbs to me, round. Jelly beans like a sort of moon shape. Are you sure that's what you see? She said, yeah, they look like jelly beans. And that was her words. So I didn't change it or try to fit it into my seeing of it. It was what she said. But at the same time, Andrew, I'm not actually driving. I'm not actually stopped. I'm in motion. And although I've slowed down to about 5-10 miles an hour from a regular road of about 30 miles, 40 miles an hour, I believe that, I got that extra time to look and observe. And what I observed was an empty field of humanity. There was no humans. There was no vans with gas bottles and big blimps and things like that going on. This was just, it looked like what do they call it? An airport car park. In England, they have these sort of low-level sodium lights that sort of bring down this orangey glow over car parks at night. And it was like that, but there was no sodium lights. It was happening from these emitting lights of the orbs, you know.
And that's pretty close. That's pretty close. That's like a football field length.
Yeah,
away,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's not a huge, massive space. It is quite a big space, and I had to go back another time to see how big it really was. But the point is that all this phenomenon happened there. I saw these things working in harmony with one another. And with one another of these orbs, and they knew who was going next. There was organisation, but also definitely independent intelligence. And these orbs were in a floating motion. I don't think I saw any actually on the floor. They were probably a feet, maybe 2 foot from the bottom of it. Some of them probably 80, 100 feet in the air. But imagine a square block in front of you, and it's just filled with hundreds, and I mean hundreds. It's not like, oh, there's 50. I mean hundreds of them. I couldn't count them all in that one small time that I had to slow down, look directly to the left in the field, see the pillar on the left quite close to me, about 100 feet away from the roadside, but on the left side of that field, and it's trees. And when I was coming in towards that field, the trees were black, silhouetted from the brightness of behind that field. And eventually, when I got level with the two fields, I could now see this pillar going straight up. It was massive, and everyone saw it. And then I had to carry on driving. But what I realized, there was a couple of people behind me, Sam panicking, my daughter saying, well, I feel all right, but I'm a little bit scared. So we just carried on. And then it was like, did I just see what I just saw? And there was silence in my head and in my in the car. No one was saying nothing. And it seemed like an hour before I could see any road sign that would tell me where I am, you know. And the very first name was Badger's Mount. So what happened was the next day, I'm like, wow, that was madness. And Sam's, you know, he's not in denial anymore, but we didn't talk about it. The girls, I asked Danu again, did you see it? But again, they're so young, they didn't really comprehend it. Anyway, the next day I go back to this place where it happened, and I find this location. And in this mound near to Badger's Mound is a big hill. And inside the hill is a department of... It's basically a miniature defence place, and it's run by a private agency called the Department of Science Lab, DTLS. And what I found out was that what they do in there is they work on headgear for Apache gunship helicopter pilot to sync human voices of family members as ground proximity warning systems, these type of warning systems. They hear their own family member's voice. Yeah. And the eyepiece and the technology that they use are, from what I've read and understand today, that is basically what Colonel Corso would have said is weapons like from alien crafts or technology from alien craft being given to not just military industrial complex, but also the design tech companies. And I believe that they're a design tech company that are working with that. And so the eyepiece, which is what was taken, my understanding, from one of the Roswell lenses on the abductees. That technology gave them night vision, but without whatever they used to use in the past for night vision. And that's what they're working with. And so in the Second World War, Oppenheimer, who made the nuclear bomb, he also had a workings with the British Ministry of Defence in them days to also do something inside that hill. And I forgot the bloody name of the place, but it's just there before Badger's Mount, and it's a big hill, and it's so that was me thinking, wow, I can't just sit on this and say there's nothing going on. And look, I believed in ghosts. I've seen orbs as a kid. I've seen paranormal experiences as like poltergeists and things move, but this was right in my face. This was right in everyone's face who was there that night, you know. I wasn't alone. We wasn't the only car. There was at least 2 other cars. And even if there was one person in each car, that's at least 6 people that saw it. And I put it online. It's still there now. If you do a Google search for M25 A21 orbs, you'll see that my statement there from those years in 2009. But as I say, it touched me for life. And then it brought me into the phenomenon of traveling. And I went to Germany, and then I saw something else, you know, in the sky. In this case, it was like a disc, a bit similar to Robbert Brooks or to Billy Meyer's craft. It wasn't quite like a Bob Lazar Sportster model. That was sort of nice and sleek. It had that dome on it, you know. So it was sort of a craft, but with a dome, round dome. And I took that picture in Bremerhaven in North Germany while doing a flight club. And when I got home on the big screen, I could see this UFO. And it looked just like what had been filmed in Brisbane in Australia by another guy. Same sort of looking craft. bit like what you see out of Robert Vanderbroek's kitchen window of the recent past. But anyway, this thing was very realistic, so I put it on the internet, and then I got picked up by Blake Cousins, who was just starting that show, Third Phase of Moon, and was using a new system of, right, well, let's do it Skype, let's talk to them live, real. So I was one of the early Skypers that called in, and then Dr. J Radio Live, Johnny Elias, he was working with helping out the Third Phase of Moon, doing his report from Los Angeles coast while they were working out there from Hawaii. He was the LA guy, and then he got in touch with me and said, "Look, I'm doing a book at the minute, and I'd like to talk to you about a few things. Is it possible to come on?" And that's how I got involved with Dr. J. So I did like 5 years of Dr. J from Rome Radio originally on Revolution Radio to Dr. J Radio Live with Midnight in the Desert just before Art Bell show. So we had hundreds of guests, all in that field. And although I didn't work for any money, it was just my time served in giving my time to shows and editing and things like that. But for me, the payment was talking to the horse's mouth, Andrew. As you know, you get to speak to Edgar Mitchell, pilots, astronauts, John Lear. I mean, we had anyone you can think of. We had them. And if you look at Dr. J Radio Live, you'll still see he's still going strong today. He'd been ill for a while.
That show. I've listened.
Yeah, John was ill for a little while, and so he stopped for about a year, and then our show stopped. So what I did is I collected a lot of them, and I said I'd put them all on at the end in a collection of a new series for John, but they wouldn't be live, they'd be pre-aired. And that's what we did, so in the last couple of years. But going back a couple of years is how I met Robert Vanderbroek as a guest through Nancy Tolbert, who'd been working with Robert for about 22 years, and she broke the talk. And we talked about Robert Vanderbroek, and then she agreed to ask Robert if he'd come on himself. And so Robert appeared on the Dr. J Radio Live show twice. And about 6 months after his last appearance, he told me that Nancy had said, could I reach out and could I talk with him and help him? And I spoke to him and Nancy a few months before. And then he rings me and says, "Look, I'd like you to help me." And so it went from there, really. And so because Dr. J show wasn't a live show anymore at that time, John was ill, I devoted a lot of time to Robert Vanderbroek and pushing him and getting his public message out. So up to date, it's been quite a busy time. I've put him on a few shows, and it's been a big talk of the town. But I'm really glad to be here tonight, and appreciate you inviting me, Andrew, onto your show, and to bring along Robert Vanderbroek with me. So I'll be quiet now, and I'll hand you over to Robert, and anything you want to ask, let us know.
Well, thank you for that, Johnny. So are you a co-host on the Dr. J show?
No, not anymore. Dr. J's independent now, which is a good thing. I couldn't commit the hours that I was initially committing. So I broke down the hours. I'm still there for John if he needs help, if he wants me to cover or be part of it and help him. Sure, I'd be there for John. I have no issues with John. We left on good terms. But no, I started my own thing. What it was is Tom, our radio and our editor and video maker, he suggested I sort of make my own sort of self, So he brought up a few images and said, "Look, you should do this and make your own sort of brand, just so you can be reputable and just be recognised." So I started a Johny Webb show and branded myself out like that. But I'm not in it profit or trying to make money. But if it gives people an understanding of who he is and what he's about and what to expect as a guest and what you'd be asked, then all welcome. But it's very new. As I say, I do sometimes have good opportunities to speak to people from working with Dr. J, and it's been interesting to see some of the conversations that's inspired from that. So I felt that with some of that, and
is that on YouTube or
radio? Yeah. You can go to Johny Webb, JOHNYWEBB. So it's just the one N, and you'll find a lot of my videos that I've done. Obviously, being producer and working with Dr. J, some of the videos are actually in my name as well. So there's a good one there, Linda Moulton Howe, talking about, for instance, cattle mutilation, but now human mutilation, and a couple of videos that I'd found in interesting, and I put those videos to her about it. And today, I think I've just seen a video released that Monsanto had something to do with Agent Orange. And there could be a big lawsuit. But Linda Moulton Howe told me that she felt that those markings on the bodies, which had like a typical cattle mutilation, missing eye socket, missing rectum, anus, jaw strip, organs missing, no blood in the body, no blood in the location, just typical sort of phenomenon, you know. So some of the shows were quite interesting, yeah. And if you go there, johnnywebb.com or johnnywebb.co.uk, you can then go up to the right-hand side and you can see my Facebook and YouTube and other links to my show. But yeah, I'm only trying to push out what I understand. You know, I don't claim to know everyone and everything, and you know, I'm just like a viewer in a sense, just trying to find out more information.
Yeah, that's like what my show is, Killing the Void. It's just started this podcast. This is episode number 5. And I just really want to hear about different people's walks of life, their different type of careers that they do. Maybe, you know, my next guest might be a teacher, or it might be an atheist, or it might be a Catholic priest. Probably not that one, but you know what I mean. I want to hear from all walks of life, and that's why I have you and Robbert on today, because we're going to be talking about him and his experiences and as a medium. And I'm very glad that you actually told us that story about your experience, and I think that's what we're going to do to kick off this interviewing of Robbert. My first question to Robbert before we go into his story is, what exactly are these orbs that Johny encountered? I know as a medium and you have the connection to the higher source, can you maybe explain to us what Johny encountered in that field a while back?
Yes, it was a very special experience. I was listening with interest. I know this story from him, and it's very nice that he was see it with his kids in his car, and that he was not the only witness, but also his family was witness it. Orbs are a sort of light bodies where consciousness forms can travel in, and sometimes orbs are also souls. When you see planets in the universe, suns, you know, when you see a sun in the universe, the stars, they are round. That's the universal form. And also souls, when you are going to heaven, your soul is formless, and it's an orb. It will show up as an orb, and when they show themselves to a medium or to a family member in the sleep room, then they show up like how they look like with the physical body on this planet. The orbs that Johny was see, you have big chance that they was part of a big mothership. You have very big, large motherships, spaceships in the universe, and they have a lot of orbs in themselves. I call it sometimes visitors or satellites, and they coming sometimes out of the big mothership, and they are little GFOs, and they can come sometimes everywhere. It's we send sometimes the Mars rover, you know, to Mars to do research there, and sometimes big motherships have also little spaceship, little orbs in themselves, and sometimes they spread out in air. And I see also in my experience through the years, I will see also sometimes that out of a big mothership, thousands of light bulbs was coming. I was flabbergasted, but that's possible. And they can also hovering in the air or hanging in the air, and that nobody see it. They have a camouflage system. But when they want that somebody see it, on that moment, Johny Webb with his family, yeah, then they can do. And it's very special, you know, it's beautiful when you discover this sort of things and you experience it. And I'm very happy that Johny Webb coming out with it, that he have the guts to tell what he will see. But you have also people, they ignore it. They say they act or they was never ever see it. And that's painful sometimes. You know, I was having also this experience sometimes with people, and it's sometimes also the anxiety, but we are not alone in the universe. There are lots of creatures around us that was get the right from the power from the light that is standing above all the star constellations and all the solar systems, and that is what people call gods, you know, the God consciousness that have created everything. We have get an us born right from this source, and this source have give some extraterrestrials the right to travel to time and space and visit also Earth. And the reason is that they was get the right is that they are on a higher consciousness, they are spiritual, more adult, psychological, collective, on a higher level, and they have not the drifts more that we have on this planet, you know, like war, like jealousy, like discrimination. And then it's also, they have also, these creatures from some other planets have gotten bigger responsibility feeling, and they will not start an universal war, and they will bring us also on a higher level. That's us planets, this planet Earth can come also on a higher level in the future to be part of a bigger space family, a bigger space political association, that we will be part from it, but we must first grow, and the UFOs that we see now are the first signals from it, and more people will see UFOs. They show themselves more and more to prepare people that we are not alone in the universe, but that we must stop discrimination, that we must stop hurt animals, that we must know that animals have the same rights as us. They have also them emotional feeling, and when we learn to discover that love is the only way to build a future that will stay, and that war have proved that the people was thinking that the leaders, the war leaders, was most all the time losing the fight, and that the people that was going for love, they will winning. Love is the most important power from the universe. Love is the language that every planet can hear, and that every country can feel. And that's also the reason I think so that they use me sometimes as a sort of needle, a sort of acupuncture needle, to canalize this higher frequency, this consciousness, this new psychological collective consciousness that will come on this planet, to bring this to the people. And I think that is the reason also that the miracles are happening around me now for 26 years. I discover crop circles. I get a message where they will appear, how they look like. Sometimes I get street names or visions from the fields where they will appear, and then I found them. And first I was see that light bulbs was make the circles, and first I was see it lonely, and later also more people around me will see it, and also famous researcher, crop circle researcher Nancy Talbot, the assistant from Professor Livingood, that was find out the famous crop circle proof test. He was discovered that some plants in crop circles was shows that the cells in the plants was changed, and he was making a statistic from it. Yes, and he was giving the worldwide scientific proof that some crop circles are real and not man-made, and cells can only change about radiation, and he was proved that. And he was hearing from me that I was get all the time a feeling before, and then I was found the circles, that I can make the predictions. And then he was sent Nancy Talbot, and in 2001, Nancy was sitting with me in the kitchen in the Netherlands, and she was saying to me, "Can it not more direct? I'm a crop circle researcher, and I've never ever seen with my naked eyes that a crop circle was forming right before my eyes." And then she was asking me, "Can you pray and ask the crop circle makers from the universe, or they will let it happening right before my face?" And I will say, "Okay, I can ask that, but I cannot promise it." I was ask her, "Will you go with me in the garden? Maybe we can make contact." But she will say, "I'm tired, I must go to my bed." And then she was go to her bed, and I was do the prayer, and I was not expect that something was happening. And then I was feel a very strong electrostatic energy, and I was turn the light out, and I was hearing that the dogs was making noise, and the cows was making noise, and I was thinking, this is a signal, the energy is changed, and animals react more quicker on energy change than humans. And then out of the blue, in the fields behind us house, on the backside from us house, there was a bean field. A very big beam of white light with a white spiral in it was hit the ground, and you will see that the whole garden was lifted up in the was complete in the light from the big light beam. And then it was coming back, and again the light beam was hit the ground and was coming out the air. Then I was hearing that Nancy was running downstairs, and she was standing by me by the window, and we will see that a crop circle was forming right before us eyes, a beam circle. And the other day we will see the big circle in the fields, and also in that night we was walking to the field with a lamp, and we will discover the circle in the beans, and that was very beautiful. And this year, in the spring, Johny Webb was visit me for the first time, and I was having a restless feeling that we must go to a specific field, the field where I was meet in the past also the octopus-like creatures. And when we was arrived there, and we was standing in the car and watching over the field and shining with the lamps from the car from Johny on the field, there was nothing there, only high grass. And we was watching to each other, and from out of the blue there was a crop circle forming right before his eyes. It was 2 seconds before it was not there, and then it was there. And we was see that the grass was still processing, going down a little bit to the ground. And we both was see it. Also Johny Webb was see it. And I was very happy with it, want skeptics sometimes say, Robbert van der Broeke makes self the crop circles. That's the reason that he found them all the time for the first time. But I'm happy that more people witness it now. And I have this gift now since my childhood. I remember me since I was born that I was see dead people, that I was read minds, that I was see color patterns around people. And my parents was get worried when some psychological helpers will say that's not possible. Maybe your son is schizophrenic or psychotic. Then my parents was bring me to a psychiatric institute. They was thinking that it was the best, and the reason was that the helpers, the mentally helpers, will say it's the best for him. My parents was not willing that I was go to the psychiatric institute, but they was think that it was the best for me. That was terrible for me, and I was stay there a year, and then there was coming a nurse to me, and she was saying, but you are not crazy. You have psychic abilities, and that's normal. It's not a shame. And then my parents was coming by Rens Hendricks. That's a man that was having an experience with God, and he have not a permission to talk what was exactly happening, but that was give him the power to help people, to give them healing and blessing. And my parents was coming to him. We have a very busy practice. My parents was coming by him with a picture from me. And when I was still in the psychiatric institute, and my parents was not tell me when they was go to him, and I was feel exactly on the hour and the minute when they was go to him, I was feel that I was get contact, a sort of telepathic contact with a person that was exactly almost like me, but then more civilized in this association, but also with these gifts. He was give me a hand and was show me that what I was experiencing all these years, that I was not crazy, and that I was also the loneliness that I was feel. I was watching through all the systems on this earth, transit, people, I was stay very strong close by the source, and he was motivate me to accept myself and learn that it is normal what I feel, and that I must do something with it later. And then he was close my gifts a little bit, and my parents was not telling in the psychiatric institute that I was visit Rens. And then in the institute, they was tell my parents, Robbert is not talking so much more about spirits that he see, and we let him go. And that was the help from Rens, when he was close my gifts a little bit, to the moment that I was 14, 15 years old. And then the crop circles was coming, and my gifts was coming back in very big time, and now I can deal with it, and I know now what's happening. And Rens was telling me also that I must help people with it, that I have a job to do on this earth, and now I have accepted. But it's now for 26, 28 years that I have this experience with extraterrestrials, angels, and the life after the death. It's not easy, but it is also nice to help people with it, to open the eyes from people.
Is that what they want you to do? Is that what the source wants you to do? Is help enlighten other people around you?
Yes, it's the higher consciousness will, or God, or how you will call it, will that I bring people back to themselves and back to the source, and that they feel how exclusive they are self, how exclusive life is, and that life is not a biologic accident, but that life means something, that life is creation, and that the spirit or the soul is not destroyable. It will live forever. And when people learn that, they let go the ordinary drifts and kicks, and they get some rest in them inside, and they feel that they get some relation with God back. The relation between the humans and God, is a little bit blockade through the years. Through the years, through the millenniums, there was coming a sort of a distance between the humans and between the source, between God, and the religion was create also a sort of belt around God that is too tight, and God will make in this time a new connection with people and bring a new adult consciousness, not a human consciousness, but what's going above human consciousness. It's a total new consciousness. It's more the consciousness that people sometimes meet in a near-death experience or in the life after the death, but it's very adult, it's very growing up. It's a sort of love that it's so big that it's almost difficult for some people to experience it. But it's when you meet the source, or when you meet God, it will give you a lots of love, but it will also destroy everything that's not true in you. It will destroy a lots of things that you have learned, and that's not true. This is real spirituality. It's not all the time easy, but the price that you get for it in the life after this life, but also in this life self, the sort of love that you get is a big price. It's beautiful. The suffering that I experience, I know that it has a reason, that it is also good, and I will give people this consciousness. I'm a sort of donor that give people, the soil planted in them, that it will grow, that God will grow in themselves, and that they get the relation big self. The seed, thank you, yeah. Exactly.
So I have a question real quick. I'm going to detour the conversation a bit. Could you explain to people, I understand what the source is. I'm very close to that. But I would like you to explain to people, the difference between, ghosts and souls, and the heaven and hell concept, and the rebirth concept. If you understand that, could you explain to my audience a little more about that and the different religions,
of course,
and how that all plays together?
Yes, of course. I don't know everything, of course. I'm still a human, but I know some things, yes. And for some things I have the permission to talk about it. And the life after the death it's a very big reality, and people have sometimes completely their own reality there. They call it the astral world, and that's a sort of mirror world, a sort of mirror effect from this planet. It's a sort of aura that is hanging around this planet, and that world is very close to this world. People playing cards there, they have still cafes there, but it's a very low energy. It's look like this earth. And some not so conscious people, when people don't know that they are dead, when somebody gets sometimes an accident or commits suicide, sometimes they don't remember themselves that they are dead, and sometimes they come in the astral world, and then some therapeutes or some helpers from the other world, some light beings, must make them, must say to them, that the body is dead and that they are in the spirit world. And you can come in higher levels, when you focus yourself on the source, or some people call it God, then you can come in the light, and that's the real home, the real fresh smell from flowers, the real unconditional love, the real infinity. It's given lots of positive feelings, and that's very beautiful when you come there. It's a sort of state of existence. You don't think really, but you feel. You have a sort of instantly knowing.
Yeah, you know automatically. I know about that.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. I
I
feel.
understand it completely.
Yeah, I
I've
feel
had
that.
near-death experiences before, and it's just things
Wow.
instantly go into your mind. You know everything in the world. Any question you have is answered almost immediately.
Exactly, that's true. Yeah, you know exactly.
And
Wow.
is that considered what people talk about? Oh God, Johnny, maybe you could help me. I can't think of it. The Akashic Records, is that what it's called? Is that what they're tapping into, or is this something different?
In the near death experience, it's more than that. It's more
Okay.
than that. Yeah, it's more expensive than that. It's more high quality than that. But the Akasha record is it's the, I hope that I say it good, the
Uh,
library
Library,
Library?
yeah.
Yeah.
library, yeah, where everything that was right, that people was writing down, that was people was saying down, it's there, and
Oh, so it's a
you
collective consciousness of all humanity, so to speak.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
And you can download it. You can download it, and you don't need to pay for it. You can download it for free. And I know that the Akasha record is also working through me when I make pictures, and that the some dead people, they are formless. They are light bulbs. They are orbs. But when they will show up, how they was look like when they was on this earth, they use the Akasha records, and then they borrow an image, and they show it on the picture, and a picture that already exists, of an image that already exists. But you have different levels in the other worlds. You have also the sort of space before, the space before the dimension, before people go back in the conception, when they will reincarnate back. You have groups in the other worlds, they will come back, and lots of people reincarnate. They will come back and they make the decision how, from the parents that they want, or where they will born,
Yeah,
what the
there's
soul
soul
will
group.
learn.
Yeah, there's soul
Soul
group.
group, yeah, thank you, soul group, yeah. And you see that lots of groups, lots of groups will reincarnate
They
many
help each
times with
other.
each other.
Yeah,
Yes,
to
exactly,
help
exactly.
enlighten. And
Yes.
can you explain to my audience, like, so there's this misconception of if I go kill someone today, I'm gonna go to hell, and I'm gonna be burning in hell with the fiery horned demon and with a pitchfork. But it's not really like that, is it? You basically
No,
go into you, instead of being enlightened up a level, you're going down a level, right? You're like on a ladder system, and can you
exactly.
explain it a little more to people?
Yes, exactly. That's a very important part what you say. Lots of people think, and also some religions learn, when you kill somebody, you will burn forever. My experience is that you will not burn forever, but it's when you kill somebody, it's exactly what you say. You go a step down, and when you die, you go to the time tunnel, and you see a film, and you feel what the other person was experiencing. Also, when you was give somebody a lots of love, you feel how the other person was experiencing you. But also, when you was murder somebody, you experience how that person was experiencing how it was to be murdered, and how terrible that it was.
And that
Um,
person at that time, when they feel that and they see that,
yeah.
they say, okay, I deserve to go down. They understand that, right? They're not
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
fight it. They understand that they did wrong and that they need to go down a
Yes.
level.
And they do
And
it with love.
oftentimes they
Yeah.
become a victim in that next life, right? That they're the ones that are gonna maybe
exactly.
have misfortune in that life. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Then the roles are
Reverse.
different. Then reverse exactly, and then they experience it again, but then they self-experience how it was that they was murdered, and everybody gets a chance and get more chances. When otherwise life mean nothing. We are here to learn, and every soul must get forgiveness. How terrible it also is, every soul deserves forgiveness. But it will not mean that people must think I can do everything when I get forgiveness and, I get good luck. No, when people murder somebody, they will come back or return back with the person that they was murdered. And sometimes it's very difficult to understand for people, but sometimes the soul make a decision. I will be murdered by that person in this life. I will have this experience in this life. It's very difficult to understand this with your mind in this life, but it's sometimes people make the decision. I will experience how it is that I don't get food, that I live in a country and I have nothing to eat. And we learn through all the lives, how it is to be a wrong donor, to be a wrong donor, a wrong person, a bad person, be a murderer, a criminal, or be almost an holy person. We play lots of roles, and also sometimes you experience in some life how it is to be handicapped, how it is to be blind, how it is, and we learn a lot from it. God will experience a lots of things. God is tell every second from life. He tells stories. All the planets in the universe, all the situations, also this situation that we have this conversation on the radio, it's a story from God. God is telling a lots of stories in the form of humans, animals. It's one big movie. It's one big story. And it's wonderful to be part from it. It's sometimes a pain in the ass, but it's sometimes it's also many times beautiful, Yeah, Johnny, say.
Yeah, going back to these soul groups, soulmates, what is called like a mission to Earth, coming here and experiencing who am I, why am I here, what's it about, self-realizations, these tools inside us. In a Christian sense that I come from myself, obviously murder is a deadly sin, it's a sin, just in the life force of human beings, in nature, we're not murderers, we have to go through some scenario to come to that.
So moral issue, we as humans automatically know it's something wrong.
Exactly, yeah. But I feel that on the subconscious level, or this sort of looking out of the box, looking in, when I think of this soul group, the bunch of groups of what is called my understanding, it's like a bunch of grapes, and on that grapes, each grape is a soul, and you have a soul.
Exactly, yeah, that's a beautiful example. Yes, yes.
And what they say is that before you come back and live a life again, because Jesus says we don't die, okay? Buddha, we don't die, okay? What it says is that we bring a soul mission to come be and live, and sometimes it's not all about me. It's sometimes you participate on the act of someone else's mission or task or earthbound experience. And so those murderers that murder children and leave parents devastated, and they have to grow and change and live a life with a very different experience than they'd ever imagined. One of the things that the Lord says is we should have forgiveness, because we can carry that with us and eat ourselves away on someone else's destruction. And through forgiveness, we learn to allow that negative vibe or energy or feeling that we carry with us to release itself. We can overcome. So sometimes with that, we have an experience where I believe, I don't know if it's true, but I believe it in a sense that sometimes that wickedness that comes into our lives and causes that mayhem that turns our world upside down is a participant to that soul group, that when he chose to come in that soul life force, that he would participate. And I'm not trying to give a justification or trying to honor or say make something from someone who does that task in life. But I'm trying to see that there is a reason why Jesus says to us that we should still learn forgiveness, even from those that touch our life personally.
Yeah, and we're all connected. I know if you guys understand this, and I hope my audience does, that we're all connected through the source, and
Exactly.
naturally the first path to being enlightened is some form of empathy, feeling the hurt that you do to others or the joy you give to others, etc. And so I'm very happy that we're doing this episode to kind of open more people's minds that may be listening. And so, Robbert, when let's do one more side thing on this topic. There are guardian angels. I know that. Most people in various religions, they believe in a form of guardian angel. Can you explain that a little bit more? And also the demons. See, this is something that me personally, I believe demons are more of a dimensional being. They're not the devils with horns type thing. I believe they're more of a form of a different type of entity, and humans have labeled them demons. But can you maybe explain those a little better?
Yes. It's you have angels and you have demons, and the angels are very, very beautiful etheric light beings around God. They are the helpers from God, but they are also the helpers around people. Sometimes a guardian angel can also be a family member from you that was passed away, and people call it sometimes a guide, or but the real angels from origin was never ever reincarnate on the earth. They was living around God and living in what people call heaven. But you have also other angel types, interhuman angels, like guides, that was a grandmother can be your guardian angel. Also, some persons from other lives that you not know in this life can be your guide or your guardian angel. Also, your higher self has also a sort of angel form, but angels exist. Angels give most of the time very short message. When you must watch out, they say, run away now, go away now, please, or very quick, and they will not interfere. They will let you free.
They do not interfere.
No, and sometimes I hate it that they don't do. When you watch
too.
I think, oh please, angels, why you let this happening? When you watch all the war and it's terrible sometimes, but we get not answer on why and how all the time. Life is a mystery, and this life must stay a story on themselves. We must learn from ourselves. But sometimes when we ask angels, you must ask, that we must ask angels for help, and then they have the permission to help you on the right moment. And they can help us. They sometimes you can feel them around you. They guide you, but they respect the free will.
They comfort you, and you can also ask them to deliver a message to the source, so to speak, and then they'll get back to you. But that's a whole nother level. I know a lot of people don't experience that, but not unfortunately, I'm very fortunate to experience stuff like that, like you.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that about me, but I have a similar background as you do, so I was very happy to have you on the show.
I can feel that you are very, very psychic and very, very, very sensitive, and
very sensitive and very empathetic.
Yes. I like that very much. That's also the reason that I'm on your show. I was having a good feeling by it. It is okay when from above that we are with each other now, and otherwise we was not sitting here with each other.
Okay, so what about demons? Help people understand this a little better.
Demons are consciousness forms. They live in other dimensions. They can also go to the light and make a better life. Sometimes demons was living as a human, and they decide to go to the world of the monsters, the world of the demons. It's not... but the demons are creatures, sometimes not human, totally not human. They are sometimes totally different consciousness forms. They living in another dimension, and they, how I must say that, they sucked sometimes the energy from people they are drunk, or people, when people use drugs, they go by the neck on the backside from the head, they plug in, yes,
Or
and they,
they like they're a victim too. They like the sleeping individuals too. I
yes,
know
yes,
that they
that's
love
true.
sleeping people.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They like them when they have no consciousness. When they, they fool them, and they use the alcohol through the person. They use the drugs, and they like to forsake. Yeah, it sounds very bad, but they like to forsake sometimes people to commit suicide or to murder somebody else, and they send feelings to people, and it's really dangerous when people do experiments with drugs and they have no knowledge from other dimensions or from demons. Sometimes demons will help them to commit suicide or murder people.
Yeah,
Or
and I need to explain something too to the listeners.
yeah.
You guys, you can tell these demons to go away, to leave you alone. You can also never ever invite them into you. You hear these celebrities, that join things like the Illuminati, or they practice black witchcraft, and they're inviting these entities into them to help them, but for monetary things, for items, for nice cars, lots of money. and
Exactly,
and then what
exactly.
happens to these celebrities? They commit suicide because it's the demon telling them that they're worthless, that they've done everything they can and now it's time to die. So never ever wish to be like that. Never invite any type of entities into you. And if you feel like you have ghosts in your house, or if you feel like there's something always watching you, or you feel a dark presence, you tell them to go away. That you are with the light, and that you don't accept them, and they need to leave you alone because you are with the light and God has your back. That's basically all you have to do, and they'll respect you. They'll leave you alone. So go ahead, Robert. I'm sorry I had to interrupt you for a minute.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. This is so good what you say. This is really important. This is really important. I hope that lots of people listen and do something with it, what you say. Thank you that you say this, and it's absolutely true what you say. God is give people what they need. And the devil, I mean not the devil with the tree fork, but I mean the demons give people what they want. They promise them lots of things. They promise them money. I will make you rich. I will make you famous. I give you all the sex that you want. But one moment and they will murder them. The demons will murder them. They will let them commit suicide. You see it by lots of celebrities. They have got what they want, but they have committed suicide. They will starting to use drugs, and that's very, very, very dangerous. It's and God is not against people with money, and is not against to famous people. When you get fame and you make people happy with it, with good goals, and you are a beautiful singer or a good guru, then God is on your side. But when you pressure and you say, I need it now, and you use drugs, and then the demons coming and they give it you have no patience, and they give you what you want, you are in danger. You are in danger, and you can ask, please leave me. And when God is coming back in your life, you get rest, and everything is coming on the right moment. But when you go with the demons, it makes you sick. It's really, it's good that you show the difference. Very good.
Yeah, and also, people need to understand too that if you really look inwards and you really analyze who you are, you'll find out why you're here. You'll find out the reasons. Sometimes, like Robert said, it's maybe you're here to help others around you. Maybe you're an old soul and you really didn't need to come back this time around. Maybe you could have waited another 100 years to come back. But if people all around you need your help, and it wears you down, everybody's always asking for something from you, or Maybe they don't ask for anything from you, but they need help. You could see it in them that they need your help for anything. And it can be emotional. It doesn't have to be items. But maybe that's your purpose for being here, is to give other people strength and help guide them along their spiritual journey and help them become enlightened. Or it could be twofold. It could be to help them, and you also are here. While you're here, you might as well help yourself. Like, I know, for example, my biggest learning thing at the moment in this life is learning patience. I don't know why. I don't feel like I've had this issue in past lives, but in this life, I need to learn to slow down, look around, enjoy life, and I need to not always be in a rush to do things or to get places, or for those around me to hurry up. I'm always like, hurry up, let's go, let's go. And even just waiting a couple hours to start this interview, I was like, man, I'm really tired. I just got off work. I'm falling asleep.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
But this is part of my spiritual journey. And what made me think about it is, these people, you guys are 8 and 9 hours ahead of me. One's in England and the other's in Holland. And you guys are doing this for me. You're being on my show at my behest. And,
But that's because you're a cool guy, Andrew, and you're a spiritual man.
No,
You're open.
Yes.
You understand. You've experienced personal
what
stuff,
I'm trying to
and for me,
explain to people
I'm welcome to be here.
What I'm trying to explain to people is that I need to learn to have patience for others and for myself. That's my biggest learning thing on this life. This is why I'm here, is to learn patience and just you guys, I understand stuff happens. Robbert had a computer issue. He had to go buy a new computer. And that's part of me growing. That's my soul is growing. And so people need to look at that as not a negative. They need to look at that as a positive. Kind of like every time you go walking and you're overweight, every step you take is in a positive direction. If you're sitting at home and you're overweight, and you can go open the door when the doorbell rings, or you could just ignore the doorbell and sit on your couch. You're not getting up and helping yourself. You're just sitting there and doing nothing. And I could have said, hey Johnny, let's just make it another day. Tell Robbert, let's just do the interview another day. And that's not me learning patience. That's me giving into my temptations, and I'm not learning anything from this experience. So I really do appreciate you guys being here, and just talking to you guys. I'm getting your energy because I'm an empath, and it's waking me up, and I'm sure we're feeding off of each other. You guys are 1:00 a.m. or whatever it is over there, and you guys are probably waking up a little bit too.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. It's very, very nice and very sweet from you that you show this personal thing from your incarnation to us. It's also one of my lessons is also we can shake hands. I was found it funny that you say that you must learn to be patient. That's also one of my karmatic lessons, to be patient, to have patience and trust in God, that it will come on the right moment. It's a pain in the ass sometimes, but I learn.
Amen.
Yes.
Okay, Robbert, we've gone over a little bit about who you are, your past, went over some of Johnny's past. Is there anything that you would like to talk about? Maybe you could explain to people what it's like being a medium. It's a form of being a psychic, but it's not only a psychic. It's almost a little bit it's a different level of a psychic, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. That's a psychic gets information out the aura from somebody, and a medium get it from above, just straight from above. And that's the difference. I get message from outer source and from out heaven or from out other planets, but I'm part of an experiment from God, and I will not make it sensational or sounds arrogant. That's not what I want. I don't claim that I be something, but I have accepted that I have this job, but it's sometimes difficult. In 2006 I was trying to escape from God, to escape from my job. I was get panic attacks, and it was really difficult for me to accept this. And I was wishing to be a normal human, to have a normal life, chilling only. And I was fight really with God. And every time when I was feel that God was arrived to me, then I was saying, no, go away. And I was get neurotic, and I was lay down on the sofa and for months. And my mother found it very sad. She will say, you have so beautiful contact. Why you will close it? And I will say to her, I'm afraid that God will maybe make a Mormon from me, that I have not the permission to have a relation, to have sexuality, to have the normal things from life, I was afraid that he was make me a sort of holy person, or a sort of priest that have not the right to be a human, like the how you call it, the celibate, celibate, that I cannot have a relation, cannot have sex, that I must go to the cloister. And I was afraid when I was hoping that I can be also a human, with nice food and, a normal house and have,
When you were telling me the first part of that, I was getting emotional. I'm actually tearing up. People may be able to see that on the YouTube.
Oh,
because
yes.
I felt your pain, and and God, the source, he gives you the option, right? He could have said, okay, if you don't want to do this no more, then you could come back to me. But then that's still not you just being a normal human, is it? That means, one day you're going to go to sleep and you won't come back the next day. And you know what? That doesn't mean your body's not going to be there. Another soul can enter your body. If God has a purpose for that body, he can send another soul in your place.
Yeah, that's possible.
I've also had this experience, like I said, I've had near-death experiences, and I was the same. I had a deep depression, and it came out of nowhere. I was my final year in college. I was graduating. I should be happy, finally be done with school, start a career, and
depression. I know what you feel. It's terrible, depression.
It was like I'm done. Why am I here? I'm an old soul. Why did I come back? And then when you have that, it's not a talk with God. It's when you, like we were talking earlier in the show.
Merely knowing.
You know instantly. When
instantly
you're in
knowing.
that other plane of existence, when you're in that out of body experience, instantly, okay, wait. They give you the options. It's like, okay, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here.
Exactly.
And then
you
it's
can
like,
come
wait,
back.
No, I don't want.
No, exactly. I know. Oh, it's interesting that you was having also this experience. God was also say to me the same. I was get also this instantly knowing from, okay, then you come back. But then I was discover I don't want to die. And I was thinking that I was willing to die. But then I was discovered, no, but it was real. I was when I say yes, then I will not wake up. Then he will take me back.
Yeah, and this is kind of a coming out experience for me, because a lot of my listeners are family and friends, and they really don't know this other side about me, the spiritual side. But I think it's very good. I think you were meant to be on this show today. I think we're helping each other. I'm very appreciative.
Yes, I found it beautiful what you show, Andrew. It helps me a lot, and I hope that I help you also. I'm very happy that you share this spiritual part from you, and that makes it for me and for Johnny also very emotional, comfortable, that we are here. It makes me very happy that you show that. And exactly that fight what I was having in 2006, that I was almost decide I will stop with everything. I will not working more for God. I will be a normal guy like next door, not have all this. I will be a human. And, and I was laid down for months on the sofa and having these panic attacks and try to let myself believe that I'm a normal human and that I don't know nothing from God and life after that. No. And then one day I was decide I go upstairs to my sleep room and I will have an adult growing up talk with God. And I was ask God, I was feel the pain from God. I was ask God, please will you come close now? And I was afraid when I was feel again that my whole sleep room was filled with this big consciousness. It was too big for a human, it was filled everything. It was feels of it was coming totally around me, and I was feel the bigness from God, but I was also feel almost a very little sweet pussycat, almost a very sweet young duck. I was feel that was coming to me and was asking me, please hold the friendship with me. Please, we need you and you need me. It's technical, not possible to go without me. And it makes me so emotional. And then I was say to God, yes, I will go with you. I will do my job. And then I was asking him, have I really not the permission to be also a human or to have also a relation and like nice food and sex and everything? And then he was saying, no, that's not true. That's your own anxiety, that you have not the right. You must be also a normal human in your private life, and you have the permission to have a relation and everything that's belong to a relation, but you cannot ignore me. You can do nothing without me, and you need me, and you have make the decision to do this, and you will not escape from it. And you want it self also. And then I was get rest, that I was know that I must not live in the cloister or in the celibate, but that I have the normal rights like another human, but that my life will be different, and that you have not a real private life. I have accepted that I have no private life. That God is. I'm not working only with God, but I live also with God. I can do nothing more, and it's also by you I can feel that you can do nothing more without God. It's in your life, and I don't want that God go away more. But I was fighting with it. I was really fighting with it. I know exactly.
I think it was like in 2006 also. It's so weird. Because I'm thinking
of like when
Serious? I was in college. It was like 2006. That was weird.
Is it not? That's very interesting, That's really interesting.
And my mom was doing the same thing. She was coming in like, why are you sitting in your room all day on the computer? Or why are you laying down all day long doing nothing? Like, why aren't you going on dates? Like, you're a handsome college student.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's maybe you like a brother for me. That's interesting. It's and what an interesting part was when I was say to God, yes, I want you back in my life. I was say that on my sleep room. I was not talking with my mouth. I was say it in my mind. And then I was going downstairs, and my mother was sitting in the kitchen, and she was crying, and she was saying to me, I cannot explain what I feel, but it feels as if they are so happy in heaven now. It feels as if it is good between you and God now, or you are friends again with each other. And my mother was feeling in her breast, in her stomach, that her son was with his instinct connect again with God. And that was
and once you
beautiful.
Accept the light back in, it feels like doors open for you.
Exactly.
You still have bad days. It's normal because you're human.
Oh,
you're human,
yeah.
And you're here still to learn, but there is more opportunities than you just sitting in your house doing nothing.
Oh yes, exactly, and I must learn that also, and I still learning. I must do things, and okay, it's sometimes it costs energy, but when you do it, it gives a lots of energy. It's the
Yeah,
same
you
with
feel
you now.
good.
It's yeah, exactly. It's the same with you now to do this interview, and you was a little bit tired, and then you do it, and you get a lots of energy from it. You get some paying back from it. That's the light from God that helps. I know that from the years that I was working in my practice, sometimes I was thinking, oh no, I don't want it. I was nervous. People was waiting of me. They was expecting a lot, and then I was thinking, oh no, I'm nervous. I will call them and say I'm sick. I have the flu. And when I was sitting there, something was coming over me that I cannot explain, and I was walking on clouds. It's funny.
So let's move on. A lot of my audience isn't the same audiences as a lot of the shows you've been on. I was telling Johnny that I believe yesterday or the day before. My audiences are everyday working people. They're actually not even really into knowing more about the ETs and the aliens and stuff. Obviously, you got the stuff that you see on TV, but they aren't in that world of listening to lots of people talk about it. So, can you explain to us maybe some of your encounters and why they visited you, Robert?
Yes, yes. You mean the extraterrestrials?
Yeah, I saw the
Yeah.
video Johnny when he went to go visit you, and he's the living proof. He was standing right there in the field with you when a crop circle was being formed. He's validating you, and now he's pushing you in all these shows to get your word out and to open people's minds, kind of like you said, plant seeds in their head. And he did some tests with some tentacles, and they came back, falsified, it seems like, or, reluctantly. The lady that did the test didn't want to talk to Johnny. It seems like she was like trying to avoid him at all
Yeah.
costs. But can you explain to us what type of entities visit you and why are they doing it? What's the deal?
Yeah, of course. I have seen lots of different creatures. They look different than us. Sometimes they look like us. They are a little bit humanoid. But the big lesson on this planet is don't discriminate each other. Some white people discriminate black people. Some, some men discriminate women and this sort of things. We live in a world with lots of also negative energies, and I've learned with all the meetings that I was having with extraterrestrials, don't discriminate, accept every creature, and they look different. And I have seen very, I will not use this word, but strange creatures. They look total different than us. Sometimes they smell different. They look different. I have met these octopus-like creatures. That was a very heavy experience for me. I've met the Greys. I have met humanoids-like creatures. I have met creatures with one eye and a head so big as a cow. Very. Oh yeah, and very big. Very tall But the octopus creatures, they are, really interesting. I was having on one night, I was get the drift to go outside, and I was take my motorbike, and I was seeing a distance by the airfield in the night, a light ball, and it was a little bit orange, white, yellow, and then I was driving closer to it, and then I was see that it was hovering above the fields. I was first thinking maybe it's a helicopter and it's an airfield there, but around this time late I was thinking I will not expect that. When I was coming closer, I was see that it was a sort of egg-shaped form, light ball. Then I was stopped the motorbike and I was see that it was hovering above the fields, and I was feel immediately, and also when I was driving to it on the motorbike, I was feel in my subconsciousness, and when I was coming closer, I was feel it in my full consciousness. I was feel that the light ball was having consciousness, that it was know me. And then I was walking in the field, and when I was walking in the field, two light balls was coming out of the egg-shaped ball and was starting to spinning, and it was forming a sort of liquid form, and then out of that liquid form two creatures was popped up, and one tall, one little, and they was having octopus arms. They was having a sort of head like Grace, a little bit this typical form, big black eyes, and they was hanging a little bit above the ground, and then they was coming more down. When I was levitating, yes, and then I was feel this unconditional love, and then I was feel that the bigger creature, the taller creature, want to shake my hand with his octopus arm. And then I was discover in myself a little bit discrimination part, and I really was not like it from myself.
You felt a little fear too.
Yeah, I was feel fear a little bit, and I must be truthful. I have for years now, and that's some private part for me, but I have bacterial anxiety. I wash many times my hands, and
I could feel that from you. I understand. I registered fear because you didn't want to touch them, because you didn't know if they have a disease or
exactly. Yeah.
It's true. In England we call it OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. But it's recognized as a recognized state, just like Tourette's is in some cases.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Johnny. That's exactly the word. And I was thinking, when they're coming from another biotope, from another planet, they have maybe totally different bacteria on the body than we have. When we go to Asia, we must get shots. When we go to other countries, we must get shots, but otherwise we get sick. And that's only on this planet. But when you imagine from another planet, another biotope, I was thinking, oh my goodness, maybe I will be very sick. And then something very beautiful was happening. I was feel that God was speaking in my heart and was saying, don't be afraid, nothing will happening to you. This part of your job, you are an ambassador now. Don't be afraid, I will guide you, nothing will happening to you. And I was thinking, okay, I was leave this anxiety. And I was point my hand out, and then this octopus arm was curl around my hand, and I was feel so deep, so deep love. It was curl around my hand, and I was feels almost like an historical moment. It was feels so deep, so feels like if I was having a little kitten in my hand. So sweet, but it was feel also very powerful. And growing up, I was feel that this creature was much more intelligent and spiritual adult as us. And then I was realized, I was get a message, you must be a bridge between the extraterrestrials and the humans to prepare them on the different images that they have, the different looks, and that people can learn to accept them when their extraterrestrial contact will come.
And this is a very different type of gray.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a gray with octopus arms before, tentacles. And
exactly.
the Vatican has. Just do a research.
One of the things I saw in a documentary, a scientific documentary, you could probably pull it up somewhere. It's shown all over TV, on the internet. They said one of the living aliens, like we don't even have to go out of space to find proof of aliens, is octopus and the squids. They don't have a genetic, they don't share a genetic tree with all the animals on Earth. We could connect chimpanzees, we could connect birds, we could connect donkeys. We all share the genetics for being on Earth. We're Earth beings, so to speak. So
yes.
But the octopus, they don't share that. They don't fit into any animal category. They're aliens. So, and this is like kind of in plain sight. They're aliens in plain sight, and people don't understand that. But the scientific world knows that. And they even throw it in our faces on the TV, and it doesn't register in people's minds that, hey, octopuses aren't from Earth, so
exactly, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
In Just to add to that, from the Natural History Museum, inside there it's called the Angela Marmont Centre, and it's where they do the DNA sequencing from. And she came back to me and said that it was 97% Octopus vulgaris found in the seas of Spain and Italy, and is a consumer market for the UK food market. And what I felt was, okay, that's what I expected, that it's going to be earthbound and this and that and that. What's the 3% of that 97%? Can you tell me what that is? And that's where they come up with the unknown. And so, to me, the chimpanzee was 97% human, 3% different, that made it the chimpanzee. What is it that makes the tentacled being that 3% difference? What is that, So again, we're looking to do more checks and trying to find out about this 3%. Now you've mentioned it here, Andrew, and
Yes.
and it's been known that the octopus is not of the earth. My understanding is a banana as well. Its origin is not based like another fruit or seed on the earth. It's something about a banana. So yeah, we're interested. We want to find out, and it's slowly. We've tried one area. We haven't got the full fruits of what we expected. I wanted to know, did the tentacle fall off the creature? Did the tentacle get cut off? Was it laser? We didn't know, but I gave her the end of the tentacle to tell me about that, and they didn't really have any enthusiasm to work with it at all.
Robert, how did you get the tentacle? I missed that.
Yes.
Let's Robbert carry on. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
No, it's fine.
No. I'm very happy that you was bring it in, Johnny. Well, otherwise, I was bring itself also in the 3%. When you see the chimpanzee, the monkeys, they are 97 79. No, 97%. Human and 3% is chimpanzee. Dus it must be the same with the octopus. It was 97% octopus, but the 3% they was not know what it is, and that explain enough. Of course, we want very badly to discover the 3%, and that will show that it is extraterrestrial. I'm sure about it. I know what I have experienced. But how I was get this octopus arms. Yes, I was not cut them with a knife off, of course. I'm very gentle to them, and I was very, very happy and appreciated very deep that they was show up to me. It was too much for me, almost difficult for me. It was make me more lonely, and the reason was that I was experiencing this unconditional love from them, and that I was feeling that the moment of goodbye was coming. I was so disappointed about it, and I was not show that to them, but I was feel that, of course, I must stay in this world with a lot of sleeping people, and they was go away, and I was want very badly with them leave this earth. But yeah, I must accept that I'm be here, and I will not start to fight again, with God. And then they was tell me telepathically, and it was not a voice, but it was exactly that instantly knowing, we will give you something. And I was expect maybe a stone or something, or but then the moment really was coming from goodbye, and there was coming a sort of light around them, and they was levitating from the ground, and the light was starting to spinning very hard around the little creature and the bigger creature, very, very fast. And then they was going up higher, and then I was hearing tap, 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 tap on the ground, on the grass. And then I was seeing that the octopus arms was flying off from the body, was falling on the ground when the light was spinning. Then I was saying in my mind to them, is everything okay? I think that there is an dematerialization accident happening, like the Philadelphia experiment. And then I was get the message, no, this is what we will give you, and they will grow automatically back. Dus they will grow back. The octopus arms will grow back by them. And I have learned that from the octopus that you have on Earth. When they lost some octopus arm, they will grow back also. Dus that was for me acceptable, you know. And then the light bulbs was shooting in the big egg, and the big egg form, I call it big egg, but it was a light bulb in the form from an egg. It was not fly away, but it was zapped away. Look like, or you will turn a television screen out.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And then I was standing there with my bacterial anxiety, and I was
You didn't want to pick him up.
No. And I was knowing that God was speaking my heart, that nothing will happen, but I was still have some, you know, stubborn anxiety to pick this, slimy octopus arms from the ground. And then I was remembered that I was having in my on my motorbike a package with a plastic bag, and then I was do it around my hand, and then I was walking in the field and was take the octopus arms and do them in my motorbike, how you say that, casket?
Saddle box.
Saddle box, yes. And then I was asked, I'm having now all the octopus arms, but I was not sure, and it was dark there. It was nighttime, and then I was getting, yes, it's okay. And then I was driving to home, and the first thing that I was thinking, I must lay down some plastic on the ground and make pictures from them, but I was not know, or they will survive the biotope here, or they will maybe melt, or the bacterials will eat it away. So I must make immediately pictures from it, and then, the first thing that was coming up in my mind is bring them to the freezer, to the, how you say that, freezer, yes. And I was do them in plastic packets and was do them in the freezer. And now they are still in the freezer. Now Johnny have some parts of it and have let down this research. But the most important is the 3%. And now we will do research to the 3%, as we will maybe bring it to Italy and to Germany, and we will do different tests. And when we have different reports, it's more proofful also for the totally scientific community to show them that something special is going on. Yeah. And it shows people that extraterrestrials are here. And also when I take the body parts, I still feel the emotions.
And Johnny, and the octopus they're telling you it doesn't even look like the right tentacle, right?
Well, I did, as soon as I got the document and she told me about it, you know, I went online and looked at Octopus vulgaris, and what it shows me is an octopus that's got webbed tentacles. Yes, it's a common octopus, or so they say, but it's webbed. And these tentacles from Robbert, none of them have got any extra skin webbing connected to them. They're just a single tentacle. There is no webbing. You know, there are very similarities to it, I must acknowledge, you know, but let's just say it is an octopus of some kind. You know, before I ever got them to the Natural History Museum or out of even Holland, I was talking to David Sarita about, you know, how to get certain DNA tests and what to look for, and biotopes on top of those, you know, tentacles from other sort of origins or whatever. You know, there could be so much, you know, like derma stuff, you know. So for me, when he was telling me about it, he was saying that like there's a possibility that in the DNA findings, they could find that it's human, and that these real beings are actually us in time travelers from the future that still contain our DNA, you know, and, you know, you could get fooled on that, so that they, you know, and even though they wasn't using that as an excuse to say, you know, it's just a common octopus. You know, there is you've got to look behind the scenes as well as what just is in front of you, you know, with these sort of things. You know, I spoke to Stephen Greer through Tom, actually, the guy that makes our videos, that was our sort of video and webmaster on Dr. J Radio Live. He's doing his own thing now called Free Cosmos of the Universe. But I spoke to him about these tentacles and the findings, and he wrote to Stephen Greer and got a reply back from Stephen Greer's wife, and she said, look, you know, guys, the problem is we've spent not £400 or $500 and something dollars. We've spent $200,000 on the anaconda. I forgot the name of the creature that they're. Yeah, and they've said that they get the same reply. No one has ever come back and said it's an alien. They've all said it's been a human, not human, but Earth-based type human. You know. And she said, so don't expect to get a straight answer from anybody that's doing DNA testing in the science community, because they hold themselves out to the carrot, the biggest carrot. And that was basically what they were saying. So we're not expecting, instantly to get, Robert's found an alien and this is the disclosure from the Natural History Museum. Of course not, But I'd be honest with you, Andrew, it did deflate me. I was really hoping in my own heart. But no, when it didn't come back like that, I was depressed. I didn't even want to tell Robbert, I just felt, wow, this is so like not what I expected.
You need to go to a poorer country to get better results, maybe.
Well, as I suggested to Robbert,
England, Italy.
Italy was the one that stood out for me, because she said that it comes from the Italian waters and the Spanish waters and consumed in that European market. So for me, I like the idea that Italy has that feistiness about it. It won't be told by the bigger world how to be and what it's got to say. It'll do it its own way, which is a bit annoying, for official agencies around the world, like, the FAA, if they have a crash, they want it done this way, but they'll say, no, we'll do it this way, and we want to check that out and that out, So I'm hoping that we can get that sort of attitude with the next sample that we give to them,
Yeah, and so,
yes.
And to give more credibility to Robbert, you witnessed these things when you went to visit him, and as a young adult, right? Didn't scientists come to live with you for a while, and they saw proof also, Robbert?
Yes. Nancy Talbot was, of course, a scientific researcher, and she was coming for 26 years to fly over to study everything. And she was also bring Professor Dr. Roll. He was a famous parapsychologic researcher in America, and he was also very skeptical to lots of mediums. He was also unmasked some couple of mediums. But he was asked, Nancy, can I do some critical tests with Robbert? And I would say, of course, let him come. How better it is that the critical group will see that something real is going on. And he was doing a couple of tests with me in 2004. I was discovered when I make pictures that people appear on the picture, that sometimes aliens appearing on the pictures. Don't matter what type of camera I use. When people bring the camera and I make pictures, and when they're watching me like a hook, that people will appear on the picture, and also sometimes angels or aliens. And he was asked or he can do research to it. And then he was bring his camera, he was buy a camera, and he was open it from out a new package from out the shop. He was do the memory card in it. He was filming me, he was filming the lens, and he was filming the backside. Critical people sometimes say, he will hold some image quick for the lens when people not watch, and then he make the picture. He was do this very close boxed tests with me, where this sort of trickery is absolutely not possible. And that people was appear on the picture, faces, also aliens, what we call aliens, was coming on the picture, and he was giving an official explanation that he have not see one signal of fraud, that it was real. And I was very happy with it. And after that, Dan Drayson, filmmaker from America, he was make the documentary Calling Earth, and that's a documentary that's very interesting. It shows Calling Earth, yes, and he was doing research to paranormal photography, EVP, and that sort of things. And then he was set up again exactly the scientific law. He was set it up that trickery is now possible. There's different cameras he was set up that was filming me from out different sides. Then when the cameras was filming like Big Brother constantly, he was open the package, the new package from the shop, handed me the new camera, he was do the new memory card in it, show this first for the camera that the whole camera was empty, that the memory card was empty. And then I was making pictures, and then Frederick Jurgensen was appear on the picture, and he was the finder, or the how you say that, ground founder from the EVP, from the white noise. Yes, and
He was also who Dan Drayson in his thesis of study had been studying under. This guy called Fredrik Jurgensen. He was from he was a Swedish guy from the early sort of 30s, 40s. He was a famous sort of Swedish movie star in the black and white. And in his later life, he did research and found out about white noise, and was one of the founders of it. So Dan Drayson was actually studying under Fredrik Jurgensen's work when he appears in the camera to Robert Vandenbroek and Dan.
Wow, that's crazy.
yes,
So
it was
they were
very.
literally taking pictures of ghosts and other entities.
It seems to be people that are very
Yes.
close to the personal object that's being used. So someone's camera will certainly bring something close to them. Like in my experience with Robert, my wife was the very first image that came on the camera. It was blurry. It looked, not directly like my wife, but I could clearly distinguish the image. It was my wife and probably a mixture of her dead sister that had passed, the year before. But it was more like my wife as well. And so that was very personal to me as just one image that he took, and it happened to be the first one. Then loads more, like I say, I gave him the camera again when he told me there was someone in the room that knew me, liked me, knew my work. And I said, well, just who is it? And take the camera. And he took the camera, snap, 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 snap. And there's Art Bell, but looking 30 years younger. And, as much as I, didn't know Art Bell on a personal level, I had spoken to him. For me, it was like direct. I'd asked Robert earlier in the afternoon or evening, is it possible that Art Bell that recently died could come on the camera, and talk? He always talked about UFOs and Area 51, but he also talked about the phenomenon of death and afterlife and all of these things. Do you think it would be possible, Robert, that maybe he was reaching out on the other side? And he said, well, it's possible, John. I asked the others. And I left it. It was like I said it, but I forgot all about it. And then literally at 4:00 in the morning, he's telling me, John, someone here. I'm feel zapped. My energy's going. I said, well, what's that mean? He said, well, there's someone here. And I said, who? He said, well, it's a man. He's got glasses on. He knows you. He liked you. He liked your work. And I'm thinking, well, who is it? Take the camera. Take a picture. So he starts to take my camera, starts taking snaps, and standing next to him. He brings his camera out and starts filming Robert snapping, and I take the big camera that's Robert's and put that on my shoulder and start to come out and filming that as well, the three of us, And as I'm filming, these snaps are going, and there is nothing in front of the camera. There isn't. It's my Samsung Galaxy Edge 7. There's nothing in front of it, and I'm filming him, and he stands filming him, and these images appear. And it's emotional. It's madness. It's something that's personal. It's weird. I'm not saying I'm personal with Art Bell, but I did work on a show that just happened to be just before his show came on. I had helped him set up his network with the former.
That makes sense because that's what mediums are mostly known for, right? Is talking to the dead. If I'm missing a loved one like my cousin, then I would go speak to a medium, and they would say, okay, let me see if she'll come and visit, right? Isn't that what most mediums concentrate in our society, our culture?
Yes, I think so. Yes, and the pictures are. The message that I was get is that the pictures that the possibility that they have given that I can make pictures from dead people is that they have bring a sort of code or key in my system that it is possible when I take a photo camera that I can make it happening that something will appear on the picture. It's a very it consolate people, it comfort people to see that the loved ones are still around them.
Yeah,
but also
there's a very famous lady that took pictures her whole life with the old camera, and I can't remember what the documentary was called, but she would see a lot of orbs. It didn't matter. Other people would use her camera and nothing would happen. But
Yeah, I see that.
Do it. She would get all these fantastic images.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
she'd get like 3 Billy Meyer craft all appear at the same time, in a triangulation, things like that. Very, very upfront videos or photographs.
And it's an old camera, and you can't change it. It's not a digital camera, So the researchers, the scientists were like, well, we don't know how the hell she did this.
Yeah, and it's the same with Robert. He doesn't just work with, say, digital cameras or iPhones or these sort of like smartphones. He works with photographic cameras, I believe video cameras as well, Robert. Is that true?
Yes, exactly. It was starting with analogic cameras with film rolls in it, and there was also happening on the cameras. Also, journalists was bringing this analogic cameras, this old-fashioned cameras, and also the creatures was coming also on it. And yeah, that's very proofful. I like that one. With iPhones, smartphones. Skeptics can say, Photoshop, blah blah blah, but. Yeah, I'm very happy that I was do this, working with them to prove this and this give people more trust that there is life after the death and that life has a reason.
Well, that's what I like about you too, is you're not afraid to invite people to your home. Well, obviously you don't want any random stranger, but you know what I mean. You're not afraid to be tested and go that extra mile to say, hey, look, this is really happening to me. I'm not crazy. I'm not some schizophrenic person, but you're
Yeah,
actually
exactly. Yeah,
going the extra
that's
mile to
Oh
prove it.
yeah, I will do everything for it. I have nothing to hide, and I have of course I was wounded from out my past that I was sitting in the psychiatric institute, and then you get of course very strong drift to show people that it's real. I'm not crazy. It's real, and I know that I can prove it. Is why I will not do that. When I help people to open the eyes that they see that there is another world and that we will live forever, why not?
And you
It's
kind of hit a nail on the head a little bit right there. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of these schizophrenic people or people that are in mental or on the streets as bums, yes, drugs does fry the brain,
yes,
but
yes,
a lot of these people too, what are what everyday people don't understand is they're seeing through the veil, so to speak. They can see other
exactly,
realities,
yes,
Yeah.
other dimensions,
yes,
and what we perceive as them being crazy is, yes, they're acting insane, but that's because they're seeing things that are scaring them, and their brains doesn't know how to communicate and to themselves, and they are living on a source of endorphins and anxiety, and they're basically running their RPMs too high nonstop, and they don't know how to slow down. And that's why we give these psychotic people, well, what we call psychotic people, downers, drugs to make them calm down, and then they act normal. And this is very common with people that are schizophrenic, but there are drugs that make you schizophrenic too. So
Well,
they're
when I
they're
was in Indonesia, Andrew, I was with my wife, but we was visiting the island of Pulaway in the north, which actually got wiped out, under the Banda Aceh tsunami. But before all that happened, I was on the beach and I was talking to this Japanese girl, and she was telling me a story of her experience of living in America, going at the Columbia University, I think in New York, and what she said is that she would hear voices in her head, Americans, and they were clapping and applauding her. And she said it was like there was an auditorium. So you could hear all these people talking and clapping her and thanking her for future things that she's going to do in her life. And I said to her, so does that border with sort of schizophrenia and stuff? And she said, it does. But the thing is, it's not me. I don't suffer with any form of schizophrenia or any kind of illness mentally wise. But when I lived in America, I believe I was targeted on a personal level. That those standing next to me couldn't hear what was being said, but I could hear it like it was in my head. And she said, over the 2-year period that she stayed there, she felt that she was part of a program, a secret program, or not a public program at that point. And today, you hear about these cases where there's personalized targeting of individuals that, they have
they
these
get
technologies.
implanted in. They go to the doctors and they get MRI
She,
scans. They got implants in their head.
well,
Yeah.
I don't believe she had an implant, but what she
Okay.
told me was is that after leaving 2 years in New York, she went back to Japan and then told her parents about what had happened. And they told a very close family friend of their affluent family, and he recommended that she come into their mental hospital for 2 weeks under tests and to assess her. And after that 2 weeks, he said to her we want to give you this medication, and if you agree to take this, you can go home to your parents. And so she agreed to take it for 2 weeks and stay in there. And then when he asked her, how do you feel? Do you still hear those voices? And she said, no, I don't hear them no more. And he said, okay, then, well, that's the tablet that's obviously going to help you out. And she went home. But she said to me, John, I still heard him. But, if I just said I still heard them, I'd never get out of there. But of course I still heard them. They still talk to me. So it's not like, for instance, personalized attack where we're pointing a beam gun at someone in a crowd and aiming a personal message to that person. Not like they use today with crowd control, with these microwaves sort of personalized, make you feel like you're burning, unless you move. These type of weaponry, we're talking about something that's traveling with us. So like you may have suggested, actually being tagged and having that constantly on them, some sort of scalia weapon. I don't know, but I always remember that case, and that was back in 2000, 2001. So, we know that what technology's come a long way since then. So anyway, back to you guys.
Before we end real quick, I'm going to sneak another question in real quick. What's the one-eyed thing? And if you don't know right away, Robbert, maybe you could commune with the higher consciousness and find out for me. How come in our history books or in our religions, the one-eyed gods or the one-eyed beings, they come into a lot of our scriptures, our texts, and then in supernatural things, you could see more with one eye than two eyes. It's kind of like you could see ghosts on the side of your eyes, like the peripheral vision. But if you were just to close one eye and have one eye open, you can actually see more than with two eyes. Can you
exactly.
Do you know the answer to that, or?
Yeah, it has something to do also with your third eye. How you say that? Third eye.
Yeah, third eye.
Third eye. That's also one eye, and that's all. The eye that see the most, that see also what's really important, and it shows also that God is in everybody. The one eye is in everybody. The two eyes are primitive, and they can see the world and they see this dimension here. But the one eye can see other dimensions, can see everything when your higher consciousness allow it. And the one eye God shows us that eye is the most important, that eye is also in us, and that eye is what stay. The two eyes are more the material eyes, but the one eye, the mental eye, is the most important. And when we are in essential, the real light creatures that we are, we have one eye. I was having one experience when I was going out my body, and I was experiencing that I was having an eye that can see straight, left, right, and on the backside, and upside and downstairs. It was, I cannot explain it, but it's
You just know.
yes, but I have not all answers on everything. That keeps it also excited, and then we experience. That will mean that we get more experience.
No, I appreciate you answering that question really quick, because that's something I kind of always wanted to know. Because when I'm dealing with the supernatural, I find it helps if I just have one eye open. And I don't know why. It's just natural. Yes. It just happens naturally. I don't say, oh, there's something over there, I'm going to close my right eye. It's not even like that. Yes. I don't even think about it. It just happens. I'm just like looking over there. I don't know how to explain it. It just happens.
Yes. I know. It works better. When I focus on things, I close one eye many times, and that helps. One eye see more. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming on the episode. We'll hopefully have a second episode. I really enjoy talking to you guys. I really appreciate you coming on so late for your time. And thank you, Johny and Robbert.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to find out more about Killing the Void podcast, you can visit our website at www.killingthevoid.com. you will find links to download our latest episodes. Thank you and have a good day.